There's a particular kind of tiredness that has nothing to do with sleep. You can feel it before your feet touch the floor, and your chest is already bracing for a day that hasn't even happened yet, as though you've already been carrying it before it begins. It's the tiredness that comes from carrying thoughts that were never yours to begin with, from waking up certain about things you never actually examined, from being afraid of things that you were trained to be afraid of, and from absorbing 100 urgencies a day that arrive through a screen and land in your nervous system as though they were your very own emergency. This is what the new moon is pointing toward tonight. Not what to do next, but what you've been carrying that was never yours in the first place. This new moon is in Gemini, and Gemini is a part of us that scans and gathers, processes, and makes meaning out of everything it touches. That is Gemini's gift. But the shadow is what happens when the scanning never stops, when the mind becomes so full of everything it has absorbed from the outside that it loses the thread back to what it actually knows on the inside. And here's what's true about this particular moment in history. We are consuming more information than any human nervous system was ever designed to process. And not just a little more, exponentially more. The stimulation is relentless, and much of what is filling us in was designed to keep filling us in, not to clarify, to activate, to agitate, to keep the nervous system scanning for a threat it cannot quite locate. It's like trying to hear one familiar voice in a room where everyone is shouting. And after a while, you stop noting which voice is yours. So we walk around, most of us, not knowing which thoughts belong to us and which ones simply got installed. And that's not a personal failing. It's a biological response to an unprecedented amount of input. But here's the question underneath all of it. The one that this new moon is really asking. When something hard arrives, when the conversation gets difficult, when someone you love says something that lands in your chest like a rock, when life asks more of you than you plan to give, what do you do with yourself in that moment? Because most of us have been taught, without anyone ever saying it out loud, that the only options are to fix it, defend it, explain it, or leave it. We swing into action or we disappear. We manage the moment or we abandon it. And in doing any of those things, we often abandon ourselves, don't we? Well, this week taught me something about that. I had some really hard conversations, the kind that open up 38 years of history in a single afternoon, and the kind where every old pattern I have is standing at the door saying, go ahead, defend yourself, explain it, make it make sense. And you know what? I didn't do any of those things. And not because I wasn't activated. Oh, I was activated. I cried. I got angry. I wanted to defend myself. I wanted a way out of the feeling. But you know what? I stayed. And yesterday, when I needed to find my own ground again, I spent the day in my garden, around the plants that don't demand anything from me. They simply appreciate my presence, and I appreciate theirs. I didn't need to explain anything. Nothing needed me to be different than I was. I needed a day to stay with myself. And that's what I want to talk about tonight. Because I think we've been given a definition of capacity that doesn't serve us. We hear capacity and think it means how much can we hold? How much can we carry? How much can we endure? And so we spend our energy trying to stretch that ceiling, trying to tolerate more, take on more, be okay with more. But I don't think that's what capacity actually is. Capacity is not the absence of activation. It's the ability to remain present while activated. Capacity is not how calm you look on the outside. You can be crying, shaking, sitting quietly in the garden speaking to no one, and still be operating at full capacity. Because human capacity is not measured by how much you can hold. It's measured by how little of yourself you abandon. When the moment gets hard and every old pattern wants you to run, to fix, to fight, to disappear, and you stay. Not because it's easy, and not because you have it all together, because that's who you want to be. Because the staying belongs to you. It's not an outcome. Because you're learning slowly that the thread back to yourself doesn't have to break simply because something difficult is happening. That, to me, is capacity. The ruler of Gemini is Mercury. And right now, Mercury has moved out of Gemini and into Cancer, out of the newsroom and into the home, out of information and into feeling. It's as though the mind has spent weeks trying to solve a puzzle that never belonged to it, and now something softer is asking for our attention. Not another answer, just a place to set everything down for a while. And maybe that's why silence feels so nourishing right now. Not because it gives us more information, but because it gives us a chance to hear what never stopped being true. And sometimes the next right step doesn't arrive as another thought. It arrives when your shoulders soften, when your breathing steadies, and you can hear your own inner voice again. Your body already knows the way. So here's the invitation for this new moon. Not a practice, not a list, just one question to carry with you into the week ahead. When this week asks something difficult of you, what would it look like to stay with yourself? You may not do it perfectly, and you may not do it peacefully, but if you do it honestly, that counts. That is the growth. And sometimes we don't realize how much we've grown until life hands us a moment our old self would have handled very differently. The return itself is the change.